Hey everybody, it's Barbara Ann. Welcome back to my channel, Straight Out of Context. Boy, this last episode of season 2 of Life After Lockup, Gypsy Rose Blanchard, was a doozy. Of course, it begins exactly like the previous episode ends. The producer's talking to Ryan and asks, is he afraid that after the paternity is resolved, the communication will stop? And of course, he says, well, of course. He knows it's gonna stop, because then Gypsy has exactly what she set out to get from him. She says, yesterday Ryan and her had a phone conversation for the first time in 6 months, and that it was very kind, it was very civil. She says, for the first time, they had banter, and they talked about business, the paternity stuff, the divorce. She goes on to say that she feels like his attorneys and him are holding up the whole thing, and she wants to meet him at the same time, same place, and wants to bring the baby. And then of course it would just be him, her, and Aurora. Ken, she says, was at work the night previous, but she did text him and told him everything that was communicated between her and Ryan, but Ryan does not want to acknowledge it. And then Ken says, even though it's all there, black and white, clear as crystal, that he's the father and Ryan is not, he doesn't have to be tested for it to be done. But, I guess denial is a crazy thing. This is all very, I just heard about it last night. Like, I didn't even know the full story yet. So he's then asked, how does he feel about it? He says, I don't think I'm going to let that happen. It's just the fact that, we're dragging Aurora through the mud on this when she doesn't need to be. It's more damaging to the healing process. You do what you need to do, but you're not going to bring my daughter into this mess. He continues by saying, if Gypsy wants to do it, that's fine, but there's no need for her to be there in the mix of all that. So I'm not going to involve her in that mix if I can do something about it. And then it cuts back to a closet and then Gypsy. And she says that Ken has very high reservations against it. Well, duh. You know why? He gave me an ultimatum that if I was going to meet with Ryan, that our relationship would be in jeopardy. And then, of course, it cuts to her and the baby. I think in the moment, high emotions took hold. Yeah, because Ken put his foot down. And he said some things that he regrets. That he would file for custody of Aurora and move back to Houston, Texas, and take her. I don't think he was playing. I think he's done with your manipulation. Like saying he would move back to Texas, dun dun dun, shows Gypsy and the baby. Yeah, he has every right to tell you he's done with the lies and done with the manipulation. I think the whole world is done with your lies and your manipulation. She says that really put me in a corner. Why would that put you in a corner if you're not doing anything wrong? I'm not going to risk losing my child or my family to meet with Ryan face to face. Then that begs the question, why have you been texting Ryan and leading him on for almost a year? She says, I would have liked to see him again so we can end on amicable and positive terms. But Ken put his foot down and said, hail to the no on that. You ain't taking my baby. She said that she would have liked to really see Ryan again. That she wishes there was some way that she could make it better with Ryan and really try to fix the way that she left him, the way she cheated on him, the way she had a baby on him, the way she committed adultery, the way that she divorced him. Ken says that he knows he's the asshole in this situation. He's fully aware of it, but Gypsy is at her best when she's not looking back and she's only looking forward, and that he's trying to save her from all the unnecessary drama and protecting Gypsy's emotional state. I see the best version of Gypsy when she is moving forward, then keep looking backwards and to keep muddying up the waters. Why does he keep saying that? And they don't need to be muddied. He said muddied 17 times already. All right, baby, I got to go to work, he says. Sorry we couldn't spend more time together, but this weekend's going to be crazy for me. He says, I love you. And then Gypsy barely says, love you. And then it cuts to Parker. He says, you can't wait for me to get home tonight. I'm going to be in cutoff. So what does it matter? She says. So this is her trying to push him away. No, I'm saying that if you can't wait here for me. But Ken forgets.
I would be curious if anybody Gypsy has talked to feels they're getting the full story.
This is actually kind of the first time I've been honest, besides being honest, with my attorneys. Even that, I haven't been completely honest with them.
Gypsy continues on that she is going back home to cut off today and that she won't see Ken for a while again. She's asked how it's been, and she says rough. It's been rough. She's setting the stage for Ken is a problem. She says everything is day by day, so we are just winging it. It's kind of hard to keep up a relationship whenever you're living in two separate places. And you've got schedules that interfere, and I think I'm very clear on what my needs are. What about Ken's needs or Aurora's needs? I want cuddles. I want snuggles, she says. I want words of affirmation. For Ken, it's like he doesn't think about what I need. I don't get it. He says, yeah, he loves me. Okay, so you say you love me, but you don't show it. Are you serious, Gypsy? He didn't move all the way from Houston to be with you? I feel like more distant than ever from Ken is what she's talking about. He thought everything was going great, but then you get down to like the nitty gritty and it's kind of like, okay, then stop fooling yourself. Like, is it gone for you? Like the spark, the flame, the energy, you know what I'm saying? You guys just had a baby and he works full time, like real people have to. She says, so I think a lot of things just drained us. We need to have more communication. She's just mad she's not getting her way. She continues, we need to be more open and realistic about our expectations of one another. And it cuts to Gypsy and the baby. I texted Ryan and was like, I can't meet with you. I really cannot meet with you. This is where we are at with it. This is what it is. This is how it's going to be. Ken does not feel comfortable at all, and he has that right because he is her father. So, yeah, good for you, Ken. And it's just kind of all blown up on me. The producer says, what was his ultimatum to you? Ryan's ultimatum to me was either meet with me or she stays in Anderson forever. He feels like it was a power play card, like that was his trump card. Ken is the father. He is the biological father, but he's the father on the birth certificate, and Ryan's name is on the birth certificate, so he has legal rights to Aurora. But he doesn't because the divorce was pending an actual court-ordered DNA test, not the one that Gypsy was trying to get done before the birth, which most counties in most states do not recognize those as legitimate. So she goes on to say that he's playing that card. And that leaves me in a position to kind of wonder, what are his rights, if any? After a string of texts that made me uncomfortable and I was trying to diffuse the situation. Yeah, you created the situation, Gypsy. And then you want to sit back and act like you're the victim, trying to diffuse it. I said, okay, I'm not going to be texting you anymore. Does he have any rights to Aurora or not? He may be the father on the birth certificate, but that doesn't mean he has parental rights. A test will be taken, a hearing will be had, and the court will observe the test. And then we'll go from there. And I guess it's wrapped up after that. Paternity is fully established. Gypsy goes on to talk about what her lawyer said, depending on how much trouble Ryan ends up giving her. Ken says, which we've seen will be a lot, I'm sure. He's just a dick right now. He's being a dick. And Christy's like, yeah, he's showing his true colors. And then, of course, Christy's mom's like, 100%, he has been. Yeah, I'm not going to let him use my kid, Ken says. And of course, he goes on to say, as a chess piece. Gypsy's just sitting there like living this up. There's a part of me that understands why Ryan reached out, and it's because he wanted to see me. It's because he still loves me and that he wanted to meet Aurora. Yeah, Gypsy, he loves you. You were his wife. Okay, you just didn't love him. That's the problem. Ryan always made me feel seen. He always saw the person underneath. Underneath what? That fake facade? The emotions, the past. But at this point in time, we cannot be friends. She says, how would I feel if Ken was talking to an ex? I don't know. How did you feel about those naked pictures of his ex? Christy says, I got bail money. I got the bail money. Yeah, off of Dee Dee's murder. I've got your back. I'll catch a charge. And she says, oh, me too. I'll catch a charge. And I'm like, I had you texting me and him going on a rant. And I'm like, let's just all calm down. That is Gypsy literally trying to diffuse a situation that she literally created. And here she is on national television sharing more messages from Ryan. The fact is, we need to have this done. We already took it. It was not good enough. They want a test post-birth, a court-ordered DNA test that the court will accept as admissible. It's an unfortunate situation, but we'll just have to get through it. But I'm not going to sit here and babysit the delusions of a man almost 10 years older than me. Ken, you're balding and gray. What? They go on to say about how the drama comes into the mix. Yes, because Gypsy creates it. It's not the first time it's happened to somebody, like divorce and cheating. Okay, adultery. I'm sorry I didn't listen to you, Gypsy says to Ken, and Ken says, don't be sorry. No, she should be sorry. I know you had good intentions. It's a shame it couldn't be that way, though. My good intentions always seem to backfire on me. And the level of understanding that, like you, for example, I just get proven wrong all the time. You do your best. That's what matters. But you've got a good heart and it shows. Ken, what fucking delusion are you on, man? Gypsy says, thank you. And of course it cuts to Ryan. He's talking to his attorneys. And they're saying, yeah, he's on the birth certificate. The child has his last name and that he's listed as the biological father and you may not be the biological father. He says Gypsy did the in utero test, which in my 20-year career, I have never had one in a case because they're not admissible in court. Normally, the parties will wait till after the baby is born and they will do a post-birth DNA test. There's not much precedence for an in utero test, knowing that Ryan was unfortunately not the father and he's on the birth certificate. I think that Gypsy was trying to thwart that process, but the law is the law and you can't do that, meaning she was trying to make this happen and go through faster so she can get divorced before the baby was born. So the attorneys are discussing the options with Ryan, but that's funny that Lifetime literally airs her the F out and allows these attorneys to really say what Gypsy legally was trying to do. She was trying to make Aurora born in Urker and trying to loophole all of the laws regarding DNA, divorce, and all that. And then the attorney says, is she still flirting with you? And Ryan's like, yeah. And he says, okay, do you think that's healthy for you? And he says, no, it's not. And I know that. Then it cuts to Gypsy and Ken, and he says, perfect, talking about what she wants to do after parole ends. She wants to go to Vegas, she wants to go to Hawaii, and she wants to go to Iceland with her last $50. Ken says, okay. And then she says, I want to move in with you. I want to travel out of state for fun, drink at a bar, be free of harassment from people reporting me always for dumb shit to my PO. And she says that she wants to be the best version of herself that she can be, including Ken too. And she said, I have always had a problem with self-sabotaging, but it's nice to have somebody say that you are loved, you are worthy, and for somebody to actually want to fight through all of the pushing back, because that's what she does. And it is extremely important. He doesn't have to stay, but he does. And so it cuts to Gypsy getting her driver's license. She talks about how she's always had a fear of cameras, yet she has an entire camera in her face for the last 10 years. And Ken says, hey, you want to drive? Just joking around. And she was like, okay. And he's like, no, no, you're not driving my car. They go out to eat and then they talk about the future. They talk about the baby. He asks her, how is she really doing? And she says, I'm fine. And that Aurora can be the only one that's his Valentine other than her, like the only girl that can be in his life. So she goes on to talk about having a good partner and butterflies and what happens when things don't work out. And of course, this guy ends up telling them how to feed the butterflies and all of that. And they take Aurora in there. And then Ken does this whole entire sappy thing with like, oh my God, butterflies are like freedom, something like Gypsy has never been able to do. And it signifies like rebirth and second chances. And then he says that he is the happiest with his family. He is the happiest when they're doing well. And then it cuts back to Ryan. And he's just like, yeah, I'm not the father of Gypsy's baby. You know, there's no reason in this lifetime to worry about it because who knows what tomorrow will bring. And then, of course, it shows that, yeah, the court-ordered DNA test says that Ryan Anderson is not the father of Aurora and Ken Urker is. But then there's all of these. Gypsy has to have signs everywhere for some odd reason, reminding her how to take care of a baby and to turn off light switches. But she goes on to talk to Ken about Ryan, about posting the paternity test, the second one, and how Ryan never mentioned it. And the producer says, has Ryan communicated anything about the paternity test on his TikTok lives? And she says, no, he hasn't said anything. And then Ken says, so Ryan is being a petty little bitch. He's no longer standing in our way, huh? And then Gypsy just looks over and like the biggest smile she's ever had. And she's like, yeah, Ryan is just a big bag of emotions. I do my best not to judge Ryan because I know what I did to him. I've been there and I'm still there with healing. Yeah, you caused that trauma and abuse on him and you know it because all of this drama and chaos. And we're almost out of the woods, Ken says, meaning Pearl. And me, of course, he knew all along that he wasn't the father. He just purposely tried to drag her through the mud because it's just, you know, he's a petty little bitch. And he says it a fourth time. She says, me and Ken just can't give up on each other. You know, I see us 20 years into the future and I love you. And we're at a point, if we died today, we had a good life. I have no idea what I'm walking into, Ken says, but I'm also excited and nervous and excited. I've never been in a ring store before. And the lady says, welcome to the ring store. And he goes on to say that he wants to unite him, Gypsy, and Aurora as a family. And he knows that Gypsy is a partner that he wants to go through life with. And that they want to raise their daughter together as strong as possible as a family unit. Ken also says that he planned on proposing in a couple months on a very special date. And she says, oh, and what's that? And he says the day that her parole ends, which is June 25th. So that should be when he's proposing if he hasn't secretly already done it. And there you go. There you have it. The whole entire season 2 of Life After Lockup is complete. It's done. And that was it. So let's take a rewind time little trip here, okay? To not only the marriage of Gypsy Rose Blanchard, the release of Gypsy Rose Blanchard. How about the divorce filing between Ryan and Gypsy? Or how about this? Besides the cheating, lying, sudden abandonment, and adultery, this is what really started it all. And I don't know about you, but I'm a really good, loyal, devout friend as well, but I would never interfere with my friend's marriage, period, or do some bullshit like this. But again, this is where it began months ago. Let's talk about the blatant hypocrisy here. This is Bree. She also goes by Says Bree or Bree with duh facts. She is the most loyal gatekeeper and friend of Gypsy Rose Blanchard. Gypsy Rose Blanchard gives her a private, legally private correspondence from her legal husband, Ryan Anderson. Gives it to Bree, and then Bree goes and tells the entire planet.
Why did you have Bree post instead of you posting?
I personally, I couldn't do it myself. Felt like if I posted it myself, that he would have received a message that I'm trying to hurt him, and that's not what I was trying to do.
What's the message?
The message is that I in no way want to prevent the healing process, but I do not want to be with him either. And that's definite.
Talked you into killing your mother.
I did. I talked him into it.
Why didn't you kill your mother?
I didn't believe I could do it.
Could you explain what you mean by that?
I don't like blood. I don't like the sight of blood. Frankly, I'm too squeamish. So I just honestly didn't believe I could do it on my own.
She's been showing messages from Ryan, yet he posts this to TikTok and she goes off on a rampage despite her having done it already in the show before, all this last episode, and doing it again through her friend Bree. Then she globally and publicly humiliates and shames him, posts that he's on methadone, and then posts his private correspondence with her father. And she has the audacity to say that she wasn't aiming to hurt him. That's exactly what she was doing. And then Ken says he'll catch another charge. Like, that's really funny, Ken. It's my opinion that Ken and Gypsy definitely know what the hell they're doing. And a lot of this drama is completely scripted for this bullshit show. There is no way that it's not. And we know damn good and well that there ain't two men out there clamoring over Gypsy's vagina. Like, please. Okay, you guys may want to pause this. The CEO of Lifetime TV, the channel, is currently Andrea Wong, who is also the president and CEO of Lifetime Networks, which is a division of A&E Network. Here is the address to the headquarters for A&E Networks, Television Networks, LLC, and this is in New York City. Because A&E Network owns Lifetime, you know, I'm just saying, if anybody wants to write them and let them know your thoughts, feelings, and opinions on canceling Gypsy Rose Blanchard or stopping a season 3, this would be the place where you would want to write. Okay, I've said it all. Don't forget to subscribe, like, turn on notifications, and share.